To Defeat a Human, written by Plastic Finish, 1968. A warrant for his arrest was issued over drug use and human trafficking. Had he not barricaded himself in a steel mill with a hostage, we would have simply waited for a human officer to arrive. Fight humans with humans, they always say. There is something to it. Who else can fight a human but a human? Well, I'm here to tell you, I did, and I won. But it cost me so much. When I joined the force, humans at the academy outclassed me in every respect but speed. Rejected 4 times, I was finally accepted. Not only was I accepted, I was put in charge of the first fast response non-Terran task force. Lacking the strength, endurance, and size of a human, speed would have to be my only ally. Sir, my deputy showed me a heat signature on screen. Looks like he brought the girl with him. The red human-shaped object on screen was accompanied by a smaller human shape. The young girl, no doubt. Shit, we can't wait for humans. We have to go now. I called dispatch, demanding medical and backup. I knew what I was in for. Going against a human meant injuries, or even casualties. I just didn't know how bad it would be. Hunter was no doubt on every psychoactive stimulant known to man, Codian and the like. Palm up, I shouted to my Scot. We go in 3, 2. The door detonated, and we poured in, splitting off at every intersecting hallway. My good buddy, a Glock 17, guiding my way. Neat bit of human tech, the Glock, capable of putting a hole even in the fronts of human skulls. The humans seemed built for head-to-head combat in every way. The fronts of their skulls, though full of sensitive sensory organs, are thicker than the backs. It was like nature rewarded the ones that faced their threats head-on and punished the cowards who turned and ran. We knew where the humans should be, roughly, but the building was big, and eventually I ran out of squad mates as one by one they branched off to clear different sections of the facility. I was alone now, or I should be. There were footsteps scampering behind me, but when I turned, there was nothing. Another annoying thing about fighting humans, for such a heavy-bodied animal, on enough uppers, they can move pretty quick, freakishly quick, enough to narrow the gap in speed between our two species. DCPD, I shouted out, come out with your hands up. A moment of silence. Nothing happened. Then the flicker out of the corner of my eye. I moved closer to the door where I saw a shadow move. Shit. It was Deputy Taurus, hanging from his own tentacles. There was no time to think. I cut him down right through the entangled tentacles, figuring that he could regrow limbs. But he can't regrow a neck. With the press deep into his natural cranial cavity, I felt around for a beat. The moments of groping around the lifeless wet hole in his head will haunt me for life. He had no pulse. Feck! He was a good officer, but I didn't have time to mourn him. Humans will get better of you while you're distracted. As if their physical presence wasn't enough, they have to mess with your mind while they're at it. I wasn't about to let that happen. I have an officer down. What's the ETA on the human task force? I asked dispatch. ETA 20 minutes, came the reply. 20 minutes. That's how long I had to keep the human away from the human child. 20 minutes to keep him from hurting her, or hurting my men. Then maybe the other humans would come. I gritted my teeth. 20 minutes, I repeated. Then an unexpected thing happened. I smiled. It was the nerves, no doubt. Maybe I reveled in the opportunity to test myself against a human, for real this time. But there it was, a smile. I hoped it wasn't something so psychotic. Human strengths and weaknesses, I thought, but are they? Well, they see well in the dark, so I can't hide in plain sight. My eyes wandered up to the small duct, too small for a human to fit through, but an Encodian, maybe. I don't have a calcified skeleton, but I do have highly pressurized air sacs in their place. There is some give in my internal scaffolding. I may just squeeze through. I leapt up, and sure enough I fit, but my arms were pinned to my sides, forcing me to slither and slink. This kept me hidden, so even human eyes couldn't find me. But I was slow, taking away my only advantage. Was it worth it? Was it worth taking my speed? What else? I thought. Think! I was slowly moving through the vents until I saw him. He was stalking like a tiger. Herdens was there too, but he couldn't see the human. My voice vomited up almost involuntarily. Behind you! My shout echoing around the metal walls. Both turned to look up at me through the vent, one with a sadistic smile, the other with a look of surprise. Then panic. Herdens drew his weapon and fired once, but before he could aim, Hunter was on him. His shot missed and punched a hole in the sheet metal inches in front of my face. It was over for Herdens. As I began backing away, 5 more holes appeared in the vent in front of me. Herdens was dead, but Hunter now had an officer's weapon. Things just went from bad to worse, and with my arms pinned by my sides, I couldn't reach my service weapon. All I could do was retreat and keep looking for the child, who I did end up finding. I saw light at the end of one intersection and pursued it. It came from an office. I was looking down into a room where a young girl was tied to a desk, sobbing. Slowly, I dipped down like sludge solidified. Shh, I'm here to help. My name is Officer Jamin, I said while cutting her bindings. When she stood, I could see that she couldn't be much older than 10. The poor girl must have been scared. My heart ached for her. What's your name? I asked. Allison, she replied. That's a beautiful name. I'm going to get you out of here, I said, offering a reassuring smile. This is Officer Jamin. I found her. I'm going to try and get her out of now, I called in my radio. Unfortunately, as small as she is, her internal skeleton prevented travel through the vents as I could. There was only one way out. I opened the office door and looked around. In front of us was a catwalk overlooking 3 stories of steel mill equipment. My eyes didn't do as well in the dark as little Allison's, so when she froze halfway across the catwalk, I trusted her judgment and pointed my weapon forward. That's the man that hurt me, mister. I know, I soothed, then directed my attention to the darkness. Hunter, this is your final warning. Come out with your hands up. Clink, clink, clink. The sounds of footsteps came closer, and the walkway began to shake with every sound. Go back, I whispered to Allison. Bang, bang, went the 2 shots over my head. Shots fired, I shouted into my radio. Pop, 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 went 4 wild shots from my weapon. Human weakness. Unless otherwise trained, humans do a poor job of keeping track of their ammo capacity. Assuming that he had the same firearm from the last officer he butchered, he is 8 down, 9 to go. My strengths. Speed. Hunter was high as can be, and I was fast. If I keep moving, he'll waste all 9 shots on me. I had to even the playing field, though. I lit my flashlight and found his eyes with it. Human weakness. Human eyes can do well in the dark, but only after an adjustment period. With a strafe from my light, I effectively made him as blind as I was, while lighting my way at the same time. 5 more shots fired off wildly from Hunter's gun. I ducked, but as I stood back up to take aim, he had pressed forward into my space. My gun and his clattered equally to the ground 3 stories below. He had me by the neck, and I couldn't feel my chest. The air from my bones slowly deflated to make up for the lungs' inability to cycle. Human weakness. Small joints. No human joint wants to bend backwards. The smallest and easiest to manipulate were the fingers. I reached up and peeled one back and back and back until it popped. That worked. He let go with a pitched ape roar. Slowly, I retrieved the knife from my holster, then exploded forward. 1, 2, 3 slashes towards the midsection, but none connected. I came back around with a 4th, but he blocked it. When he looked for the blade in my hand, it wasn't there. I'd switched hands, but it was out of view. Human weaknesses, arteries. If you can manage it, cutting an artery will cause a human to run dry in time. With a sickening wet sound, I buried the steel deep into his leg, hoping to hit that femoral artery, and in return, he bit the arm he had trapped. It was my turn to roar in pain. I pulled at him and punched him in his face, but he only grinned and clamped down harder. We were on the ground now, him over me like a wolf with a hair in its mouth. That's when I got either a brilliant or stupid idea. I pulled the blade from his leg. I needed a target. Cutting at his face left scarring, deep cuts, but his response to the pain was to smile. I stabbed hard into his forehead, but the blade wouldn't go further than skin deep. with the thickest portion of the human's head being in front of the side facing me. I wouldn't have any luck. I summoned the courage I needed and plunged it into my own arm, into the bone sack, spraying compressed air and orange blood into his eyes, into his sinuses. He sat back, letting go of my arm, snorting and sneezing my own blood out back at me. There was no time to think. I was one arm down, and he would recover shortly. Speed, I reminded myself. Speed. With one arm and two legs, I grabbed the railing, putting myself out from under the hunter and around. It took everything I had, but I was behind him in the blink of an eye. Human weaknesses. A compressed shock to the ear can cause disorientation. With one arm, I couldn't hit both, but one might just do the trick. Faster than the human can blink, my hand was cupped over his ear, leaving him writhing on the ground. Human weaknesses. Blood chokes. Blood chokes happen when the flow of blood is halted or slowed to the brain. An air choke can take minutes. Minutes of not breathing can cause panicking. Minutes of a human flailing and panicking can and will cause injury. A properly applied blood choke, on the other hand, can put a human out in seconds. I wrapped my legs around the human's neck and shoulder, forming what the humans call a rear-mounted triangle choke. The opportunity presented itself to hammer down on the back of Hunter's head with the butt of a knife. As I inflated the air sacs in my legs, the bones threatening to burst as he clawed at the grasping limbs. It took only 9 seconds for Hunter's rapid breathing to slow, for his arms to go slack, for the telltale snoring to fill the air. I held it longer than I had to. This creature hurt a little girl. This monster killed my men. But as I was dispensing my righteous justice, my arm began to bleed out. Orange and red blood mixed on the floor, and eventually our two bodies lay slumped over, unconscious. I heard brief moments of footsteps, words in human dialect, glimpses of a young girl walking away, guided by 2 others, momentarily turning to look at me. When I awoke, I was in an ambulance. "Hey, look, he's awake," called a man in police uniform. "We've got him, thank you," replied a woman in scrubs. "Dude, you took on one of us and survived. That makes you one of us. You're an honorary human in my books." End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.